Today I'm going to make a response video to a YouTuber called the Sarcastic Skeptic. Now he's got a lot of videos on YouTube where he tries to pick apart the Bible and usually fails. Like he claims there's no evidence that Jesus ever existed, and he claims that there's no archaeological evidence of Moses, which is all incorrect. There is evidence of both, but people just see what they want to see sometimes. I didn't used to believe in the Bible either, and you know, in this video anyway, he's trying to pick apart the 10 Commandments. So I'll just let him talk and I'll respond as the video goes on.
All right, let's tear apart the 10 Commandments, shall we? These are supposed to be the foundation of all morality, right? The big ethical rules that we should all live by. But when you actually look at them, you start to wonder if God was just having a bad day, or if he's more interested in being worshipped than, I don't know, stopping people from being assholes. Spoiler alert, it's more about stroking his own cosmic ego than setting down any real moral guidance. Let's kick off with commandment number 1. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Really, God? This is your top priority? Not don't be a dick, not treat people with respect? Nope, it's worship me and only me. The all-powerful, all-knowing creator of the universe sounds like a jealous ex who just cannot handle competition.
So that's his critique of the first commandment, thou shalt not have any other gods before me. And he claims that this is just stroking God's cosmic ego, according to the Sarcastic Skeptic. But I think the Sarcastic Skeptic isn't considering the context of the quote. Obviously the Bible was written, especially the Old Testament was written in a time where human sacrifice to other gods was a normal, accepted behaviour by some societies, and you know, they used to sacrifice their own children. So by God saying thou shalt not have any other gods before me, surely he's also saying don't sacrifice your children to other gods. Now the Sarcastic Skeptic seems to think that the 10 Commandments are the only commandments of the Bible, which is again totally incorrect. But you know, this isn't about God's fragile ego. It's like he claims it is. This is about societies sacrificing to their own children, in some cases, to other gods that was put before God. Now surely if you're going to follow the God of the Bible, you know, you're going to love thy neighbour, which is actually telling you not to be an asshole to other people, as a Sarcastic Skeptic puts it. So, you know, he's talking absolute nonsense. Let's go on to the second one.
This isn't about morality, it's about God's fragile-ass ego. He's literally like, nobody else gets your love, okay? If you're omnipotent, why the hell do you care if someone's burning a candle for Zeus? Then we hit commandment number 2. No idols, no graven images. Okay, so God's got a weird insecurity about arts and crafts now. You made the entire universe but are triggered by a clay statue? This is less of a moral code and more like a list of God's personal pet peeves. No statues or I'll be pissed! Meanwhile, people are murdering and enslaving each other, and God's over here freaking out about golden cows. Priorities, man.
Again, he seems to be struggling to put the quote into the context of the time, saying saying that God is against statues and golden calves and stuff. What he's not realising is people in them days are reported to have actually worshipped statues and even sacrifice their own children to some of these statues, particularly Moloch, that involved children being put into a brass statue of a bull-headed humanoid figure, and burning them with them actually in the statue. So, you know, think about context before you start criticising. You know, get some actual context of the time period before you start criticising what is actually written in the book.
Next, commandment number 3. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. Oh boy, because saying, oh my God, is clearly on the same moral level as, you know, genocide. God's basically saying, you can do all kinds of shitty things, but don't you dare say my name disrespectfully. It's like the divine version of, don't talk shit about me behind my back. I mean, really?
Taking the Lord's name in vain is more than saying, oh my God, isn't it? Taking the Lord's name in vain can mean making a promise in the name of the Lord and then not keeping that promise, or a denial or something like that. So it's not necessarily saying, oh my God, is it? Obviously this man does not seem to comprehend the true meaning of what is actually written in the book, or he just seems to hear what he wants to hear and interpret it in the way that he wants to interpret it.
People are being assholes, and you're worried about your damn reputation? And then we get commandment number 4. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. Ah, yes. The one day a week God demands everyone sit around and think about how amazing He is. If you thought the commandments were supposed to be about morality, here's your reminder. Half of them are just God's self-care routine. Take a day off and worship me, or else forget about helping others or doing anything productive. Nope, just sit on your ass and praise God for 24 hours. Who knew omnipotent beings needed so much validation? So that's 4 commandments down and not a single one about how to actually treat other people.
Keep the Sabbath day holy. Now he claims that this is just sitting around worshipping God every Sabbath day, but you know, you can't worship God without treating people the way that God has demanded that you treat people, which is love thy neighbour and love your wife. So, you know, this is again an absolutely weak and pathetic argument. And if God is, well, obviously I believe that God is the creator of the universe. God is given us everything that we have, so we should be thankful to God, and God deserves worship because of that. Why wouldn't he? He deserves worship much more than any of the pagan gods or anything like that. Even if you believe in them gods, obviously he still deserves more worship than them, because God is obviously the creator of the whole universe. They're not.
No, don't be a fucking racist. No, don't enslave people. No, treat women with respect. Nope, it's just a God-centered vanity project. Now we finally get to some actual morality, sort of. Commandment number 5, honor your father and mother. Sure, respect your parents. Cool, right? Except, what if your parents are abusive pieces of shit? Too bad. No nuance here, folks. Just blanket obedience. Your dad beats the crap out of you? Honor him anyway. Thanks for the help, God.
Honor your parents. He's obviously got a problem with this one as well. When God says honor your parents, I think he's talking about the standard parents, you know, because most parents are loving parents that love the children and would do anything for the children. Obviously I think God is, and actually if you read the Bible, it actually clarifies that if you do have an abusive parent, and if your parents are abusive, then they're not living by the laws of God, and therefore they will be punished for the abuse that they have dished out. And God has no problem with you getting away from the abuse at all. Again, he's just reading one tiny little fraction of a book, a massive book, and claiming that that is, you know, the black and white of it all, putting nothing into context whatsoever, and, you know, really failing to, in my opinion at least, to you know, expose anything like he thinks he is. He's just talking absolute nonsense. Read the whole book before you start claiming stupid things without no knowledge of the actual book.
Then we've got commandment number 6, thou shalt not kill. All right, finally something useful. Except it doesn't actually apply when God's in one of his genocidal moods. Don't kill, he says. Unless you're, I don't know, wiping out entire civilizations at God's direct command. Remember the Amalekites? Yeah, they don't count. So it's more like don't kill, unless I tell you to.
So the commandment isn't thou shalt not kill, it's thou shalt not murder. Killing and murder can be two totally different things. You can kill in self-defense, you don't murder in self-defense. God actually says in Ezekiel 33:11, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather that the wicked person should turn from his way and live. So at the end of the day, God is making it clear that, yeah, you shouldn't murder people, but in some circumstances, you know, especially a wicked person, it is sometimes the only form of defence that you can actually take, especially back in them days where there was living in pretty lawless times.
Then go wild. Commandment number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. Okay, sure, don't cheat on your spouse. Fair enough. But this one only makes sense in the context of patriarchal property laws where women were basically treated like possessions. So it's less, don't betray your partner, and more, don't mess with another man's property. Again, nothing about equality. Nothing about respecting women as, actual people. Just more control over women's bodies.
Patriarchic property laws, according to the sarcastic skeptic, is the only reason why you shouldn't commit adultery. That's not the case. The Bible's got plenty of verses where it says you should love your wife as much as you love yourself, and as much as Jesus loved the church and sacrificed himself for it. So really what God is actually saying in the actual book, if you read the full book instead of just reading 10 lines out of a book, you'll see that God has actually said that you should die for your wife if need be, like Jesus died for us. So again, he's talking absolute nonsense. He seems to be really poorly educated, and he doesn't seem to understand common sense sometimes.
Next up, commandment number 8. Thou shalt not steal. Solid rule. But this is the bare minimum for functioning in society. Don't take other people's shit. Great, God. Thanks for stating the obvious. But let's not get too wild and address things like, systemic oppression or economic justice. Nope. Just don't swipe your neighbor's sheep.
Surely by saying thou shalt not steal, he's actually talking about economic justice as well. Doesn't just apply to people stealing sheep like the sarcastic skeptic claims it does. And to be honest, this argument is getting so pathetic. I shouldn't have even bothered responding to it, because it's actually like listening to a petulant child who has some serious anger issues, and he's angry with God probably because of something that's happened in his own life or the state of his own life. I don't understand why he's angry with God, but he obviously is.
Then there's commandment number 9. Don't bear false witness. Basically, don't lie in court. Cool. But what about lying in general? Or misleading people for personal gain? Or hell, lying to control entire populations with fear and guilt? Nah, God's just worried about the legal system here, folks.
Don't bear false witness, according to the sarcastic skeptic, is apparently lying in court. No, it's not just lying in court. Bearing false witness can be lying anywhere. Where does it even mention court in the Bible, in the actual commandments? He's just making things up as he goes along there, because there is no way that you can actually criticise this kind of a law. The man seems to me like he's a bit of an idiot.
And finally, commandment number 10. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff, including his wife. Ah yes, don't be jealous of your neighbor's property, because wives are just part of the inventory back then. Notice how there's no mention of respecting women's rights or treating everyone equally. Nope, just don't want what your neighbor has, especially his wife/property. So, God's cool with you treating people like objects, as long as you're not envious of other people's objects. Moral high ground, huh? So there you have it. Out of 10 commandments, 4 are just God making sure you're worshiping him properly, and the rest are mostly common sense sprinkled with a healthy dose of misogyny and zero moral depth.
I've already explained that the Bible tells you that you should love your wife as much as you love yourself, and as much as Jesus loved the church.
Not a word about human rights, equality, or anything that actually addresses the big ethical questions we deal with in modern society. And people are out here acting like the 10 Commandments are the pinnacle of morality. Really? Half of them are just God being a narcissist, and the other half barely scratch the surface of what it means to be a decent human being. No mention of slavery, no rules about treating people fairly, just don't piss me off and don't take other people's shit. Groundbreaking, God. Fucking groundbreaking. If this is the best God can do, we might need a divine rewrite, because morality deserves a hell of a lot more than this.
So he claims the Bible doesn't actually answer any of the problems that we actually deal with in modern society, such as slavery and oppression and all these things. But the Bible wasn't written for modern society. The Old Testament wasn't written for modern society. It was written for people that was living then. But even though it wasn't written in the modern society that we live in today, if everybody was to love thy neighbour and keep the rest of God's and Jesus's commands, then obviously we wouldn't be in the mess that we are in now. And his arguments against it all, in my opinion, are really absolutely pathetic. It sounds like he has some serious anger issues. He sounds angry the whole time he's talking all the way through it, and he sounds angry with God, and he sounds angry with the people that read the Bible. I might critique a couple more of his videos later, but the only trouble is with critiquing his videos is I have to listen to them first. I like to listen to people sometimes that have different beliefs to me, and you can learn something. That's how I actually got into Christianity in the first place, is by listening to people that didn't believe the same as I believed. So let's just hope that one day this man actually realises how stupid he really is. But yeah, thanks for watching anyway. I'm out.